Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the World of Marketing, where I, Tom Foster, talk with legal leaders about marketing mindset and the growth of law firm businesses. This episode is brought to you by my company, Foster Web Marketing. Since the internet was born, Foster Web Marketing has been the premier provider of customized websites, marketing, video, and strategic marketing solutions for elite law firms. Our unparalleled web technology and marketing system set the gold standard in the industry, catering exclusively to a discerning clientele who demand the best. Partner with Foster Web Marketing to experience uncompromising quality, cutting-edge technology, and exceptional service. Visit fosterwebmarketing.com to discover how we can help you achieve your most ambitious goals and solidify your position at the forefront of your field. Today, I've got Natalie and Gordon Loeb as my guests. Natalie is the founder and co-CEO of Loeb. Is it Loeb or Loeb? How do I say it?
It's like the earlobe.
Earlobe. Okay, that's what I thought. Loeb. Yep. All right. Of Loeb Leadership, a preeminent leadership coaching and development company based in the U.S. with over 75 consultants across the U.S. and Europe. Natalie is an entrepreneur and a female business leader who has built a family-owned and operated business from the ground up. She brings over 30 years of experience in talent development, coaching, and training, and is recognized as a thought leader and innovator within the legal profession and other industries. Gordon is a trusted advisor to a business he's a trusted advisor to business and law firm leaders. As the president of Loeb Leadership, a leadership and management development company, Gordon's responsibilities include business development, marketing, financials, and client and consultant relations. Gordon helped grow Loeb from a single independent consultancy to a thriving company with over 75 consultants that provide training and development, executive coaching, public workshops, organizational development, and design and student leadership development programs. Wow, you guys have been busy.
Oh boy. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm probably wondering why your audience, or many people are wondering, like, why do law firms care about what we do?
Right. That's exactly what I want to know, what you guys do. I'm very curious how you do all of this. How long? Tell me the story. How did it get started? What's your inspiration for this? How do you help lawyers?
Sure. So I'll start. It's normally the way when we do these kinds of things, and Gordon and I have a rhythm down. You'll notice we have a rhythm. We have different styles in how we communicate, and you'll notice we bring that into the workplace and we share that with our clients. We can't help it. It's who we are, and that's part of what we do. We're big believers in bringing who you are into the workplace, and hopefully when you bring yourself, you feel like you can do your best work. But to dial it back a little bit for you, Tom, I'm going to start at the beginning, but I'll fast forward really quickly. So I always say, to help explain this business, why we're in it and what we do and why law, I always say that if you knew my parents, they both passed now, unfortunately, but if you ever asked them what I was like as a child, they would tell you that I was the one that always had a lot of friends. That, in fact, my older sister used to lock me out of my room and tell my friends to go home because she was jealous of how many friends I had when I was growing up. I was always surrounded by people. I was curious about people. When somebody was upset or hurt, I seemed to know, and I was always the one that wanted to see if I could help and guide or be of any help to them. So it's just who I am and how I'm wired. When I went to college, I studied psychology, which made sense since I had this interest and curiosity around people and how we operate. And in my last semester, senior year in undergraduate school, a course came on the curriculum called Industrial Organizational Psychology. So I didn't really want to do therapy necessarily or guidance counselor or social work. I also had an interest in business. I was fascinated in how businesses ran. And I was also fascinated in how do you put people with different personalities, backgrounds, opinions, lifestyles together in high pressure organizations and expect that things will go seamlessly, because they don't. People are complicated. And so this last semester, when I saw this course called Industrial Organizational Psychology, I took it and I said, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. It's about how to help people in the workplace perform at their best, be as most effective as they can, and also lead productive, happy lives. and how to create a workplace culture. That's what we call it. A place where the tone is set by the leaders, where people want to come to work and bring their best selves there, and we can maximize performance. So this is a whole industry area of study. I found it fascinating. Took this class, came back to New York City, where I'm from, born and bred in Staten Island, New York, one of the 5 boroughs, and then decided I needed to go to graduate school and learn more about this. So I did, and I went to graduate school at Baruch College in New York City, one of in the City University system, excellent program in industrial organizational psychology. And I went to get my master's. Loving the work. And while I was there, I learned I needed to be into, quote, the people part of the business, human resources. And I went looking for a job in human resources. And so I was working it during the day, studying at night, and I landed a job at a law firm, at a large firm. You probably heard the name, Skadden Arps, Slate, Flom. And I was put on the HR team, and my role was employee relations and learning and development, because this firm was paying attention to providing support and guidance to the leaders of the firm to help them lead their teams. The director of HR at the time had also completed the same graduate program at the same school that I had. And she had the vision to see, oh, it makes sense to have somebody on the team that pays attention to helping develop the skills, the management and leadership skills of the managers and leaders at the firm. So I spent 10 years at Skadden Arps in-house, helping to build out a training function. That's what we called it then, training and development. And what I loved about it, since I was studying this work at night, instead of bringing consultants to do workshops and training and coaching, I got to do the work myself. And so I then learned how to do what's called needs analyses, where you go out and talk to managers and leaders and find out where they may be struggling a bit, where they were having some challenges, where they would like to needed some help in their own skills to help perform and lead their teams more effectively. We used to say the best groups, the teams that were supporting the lawyers, were the ones that were the low drama teams, as opposed to the high drama teams. And low drama meant that the manager was doing something right. He was communicating effectively, or she was setting expectations well, giving a lot of good feedback, providing an environment of high trust. So there were things going on in those low drama teams that weren't necessarily going on in the high drama teams. And so my job was to find out what they were and then develop either training programs for cohorts of groups to learn these skills together, which is also very advantageous at times because people bring their different perspectives, or sometimes do what's called one-on-one coaching with some of the leaders to help them with their particular issues, to help them strengthen their leadership capacity. So anyway, I did that for 10 years at Skadden. And then the story is I did what a lot of people here on the East Coast do. I moved out from New York to New Jersey, a bedroom suburb. The commute became about 2 hours each way. Gordon and I had our second child, and I had to make some decisions about how I was going to continue my career and be a mom, which was really important to me. And so this business started. I left Skadden. They hired me as their first consultant. They became my first consulting client, and I continued to do the work there. And then it grew as people went to other law firms. Now that I was a consultant, I was able to go to other firms and do this type of work, this training work or this coaching work. And then the business got bigger. And it got wider. And as Gordon was always there to support me, he had his own career, but I would forget to bill clients, or I didn't have agreements or anything like that. I just wanted to do the work. I was so enthusiastic about it. And Gordon would step back and say, well, hey, did you collect on that one? Did you send a contract on that one? And it's like, oh, I hate doing that. And he said, well, I'll take care of that for you. And then the business began to sprout. So I'll hand it over to Gordon here, because as it grew and he came on board, that's how we started to build out an infrastructure in the business, and it started to grow.
That was fantastic, what you just said. Thank you, Natalie.
You're welcome.
So Gordon,
that's all the time we have.
How can you beat that? Okay,
I can't, Gordon. And that's our relationship.
Yeah, we don't
have very different
collaborative.
styles.
Wow. We're collaborative.
We're very collaborative.
Strengths, yeah. So
I have so many responses to it, but I'm just fascinated. Well, let's take a break, because before Gordon gets started.
Sure.
Because first of all, I just want to say how cool it is that you took a passion that you had, or you recognized as a young person, young adult, your skills, what you were good at, and you turn that into something that could make you money. right? Could give you a lifestyle. And you're so young to know that, right?
I do feel that's where I feel very lucky because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I needed to do something where I was interacting with people. If you go back to, again, some of the work we do, I'm sure you've heard about this before. You know, there's a very popular assessment tool on the market called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, an MBTI. Lots of lawyers use it and been trained around it. Some, you know, there's a lawyer type within this tool. But what you know, and from that tool, what we learned from Carl Jung's research is that people generally have a preference for introversion or extroversion. And I have a high preference for extroversion. So what does that mean? I get energy by being around other people. It's the way I'm wired. So that's what was showing up when I was a kid, right? I got my energy by being around other kids. And so I learned to fine tune my social skills because that's where I got my energy from. It was fun and I would seek it out. So I knew enough about that, about myself, that I needed to be in a profession where I was around people and working with people. And again, that led me down that track of psychology when I was an undergrad. But I had this interest in business. And I also knew, you know, if you want to make some money, you generally go into business, right? In some way, in some fashion. And I had to figure out, how do I marry the two? So when that course came on the curriculum, I really feel grateful for that. I learned how to marry the two things that I liked, people and business. And I found a whole field around it. So yes,
I just love that just like fell into place for you, the way that it did. And that you had that firm that you worked with. For how long did you work there, that firm?
At Skadden. So it was very funny and very, I guess, serendipitous, as they say. I had no desire or need or interest, particularly in working for a law firm. You know, I thought I'd be at a bank or a financial institution, some sort of financial institution, advertising firm. I was interviewing at Revlon and cosmetic firms. But funnily enough, there was this job that showed up for this law firm. And my mother actually knew somebody at the firm. It was very funny. And the job that she had, she used to place people with disabilities, actually. And law firms were clients, and she knew somebody there, and she heard I was going there, and she's like, I don't think you're going to want to work there. That's known as a real sort of sweatshop, that place. And I was like, well, I want to go and check it out and see what it's like. And the fact is, the people I interviewed with in human resources were really great bosses. And that's what this all comes down to, all the work we do. When you have a great boss, you want to come to work and you want to learn, and they give you opportunities. And so I ended up just serendipitously at this law firm. But it was a great firm, and it still is today. And it gave me a lot of opportunity. I had great bosses, and I got a chance to really develop the skills that I was learning. And I spent 10 years there. It's a long time. And I had no thought I'd leaving. I thought I'd stay forever as long as they'd have me. But again, having that second child and having that 4-hour commute, I had to rethink how I wanted to live my life. And that's how it turned into the consulting work, which for me worked because it gave me the flexibility I was looking for. Although if you're going to ask the question, did you work harder for yourself or someone else? I will tell you, there's no doubt I worked harder for myself than for anyone else. And my children will tell you they grew up in a leadership workshop. If you talk to them, that's what they will say, because Gordon and I were very invested in this business. But we love it. We love it. And I am a big, big believer. If you do find a career where I know some people say it's corny, but if you do love what you do and you're passionate about it, it really is not like working. It's building a life. And so I think, Gordon and I have built a life that we enjoy, and doing work we think is meaningful, which, goes to the client work. And our kids are now empty nesters, and they're on their careers and finding what they love, which is really good. And they're little leaders. They're big leaders now, I would say. Both of them, I believe, are equipped for the business world because of the work that we've done and that they've picked up on.
So, Gordon, all right, now it's your turn.
Yeah, I'll stop. This is part of our relationship.
It's your turn to what is your part in this business?
So my part, first of all, I have a very high preference for introversion. So we kind of are at the opposite ends of the extremes, if you will. But with a lot of the work that we do, we've learned how to flex our styles in order to be effective and have the right communication style, and to learn from, what drains me, energy-wise, might energize her. So I have to flex a little bit towards that, and she has to flex a little bit towards my style. So it's really understanding yourself, and a little bit of emotional intelligence as well, understanding how your behaviors and actions are being perceived by others. Natalie was always so passionate about her, first of all, working at Skadden. She had a great, great time and career there. But when she started the consulting business, her enthusiasm, which you just saw on display, really came home every day from either coaching or training that she was doing. She would debrief with me. I was fascinated by what she was doing. I have an entrepreneurial background, management, sales, financial. So I had a good, diverse background understanding business from a number of different perspectives. So I started helping Natalie out in the background because, as Natalie said, she was more focused on doing the work, and that was her passion, not trying to figure out how to build an infrastructure to support not just herself, but maybe even grow the business to add consultants and clients. So I was a guinea pig for quite some time. I would do assessments that she was learning about, and she would debrief them with me. I got certified in a few of the programs early on as a backup, because back then we didn't really have a lot of consultants that we were working with yet. So I really started enjoying the leadership and management development. And I got certified as a coach along the way as well. And then basically we decided to make it a family business. We started growing and growing before I came over full time. I came over full time about 15 years ago. And prior to my coming over full time, we started having more clients and consultants and really growing the business and adding to our services. The bio that you read earlier has been expanded. We are really a full service consultancy at this point in time. We do more things than we've ever done because we brought in great resources from all around the world. So we can handle a lot of different things, not just with law firms, but we do a lot of work with other industries as well. So fast forward, I came over 15 years ago. Now we have over 75 coaches and consultants that work with us. We have really great clients that value their cultures, and they want to have the culture that they aspire to. They value their people, or they are on that journey, on that road to doing the things that will help their people grow and their firms grow and their organizations grow. And we love to be part of that. So it's been a really great journey for me as well. I've had to learn how to come out of my introverted shell. I actually still do some facilitation from time to time. And I turn up my extroversion. And that's one of the things that we teach as well. And it's also very important for marketing and business development too. A lot of attorneys tend to also be introverted. If they take the Myers-Briggs, the first letter is usually the I for introversion. And so sometimes it's hard for them to get out of their shell or get out of their own way and really meet new people. It's not necessary in their comfort zone. I'm generalizing, but that's what we find a lot. So once you have a little bit more self-awareness and emotional intelligence and understand how to communicate more effectively with different styles out there, you can expand your business development substantially.
Guys, who is your perfect client, perfect lawyer, doctor client, like that you work with?
So it's funny, it's probably on with a new one today. Somebody, well, it depends how the client comes to us, but let's just say a small law firm. Small law firms obviously want to provide superior service to their clients. They often have actively and intentionally recruited a few associates or a number of associates to help them, right? And then there may be some non-equity partners or equity partners or however it's set up. But no matter what, they want to have exceptional talent that will do great work so they can service their clients in the way they expect to service their clients so their clients are happy, which we all want to do, right? So particularly now, there seems to be, it's not unusual for clients to call us because they may be starting to see an increased rate of turnover in associates at their firm. They're either having difficulty, they're generally maybe having difficulty onboarding them effectively, so they feel comfortable within their office and ready to roll and ready to work. Or they may not be, sometimes the associates aren't performing exactly as well they expected them to. And whoever is coaching them or training them or giving them feedback, sometimes they're not giving it in a way where the associate is feeling as though they're valued and that they can be taught. So you can see there's a lot of communication stuff that goes on here that often is misintentional, right? But can get in the way. And so associates may leave faster and they have to bring them on and train them again. And it costs a lot of money. Sometimes there's a reputation on the street that happens. You don't want to work there. or you really do want to work there, because if you go there, you do great work and you learn and you get coached and mentored by wonderful people. So it could be there's something going on where the leadership, whoever's in charge, recognizes that there's some struggles or there's some stress, but they want those people at the firm that they've hired and invested in to be successful. And so rather than just sort of cutting them from the herd, which is sort of the term we've heard in the past, like goodbye and I'll start over, when it's so expensive to do that, they call us because they say, hey, can we invest in this person to help them develop their leadership capacity so we have perhaps less turnover, higher engagement, and better performance? And the short answer to that, Tom, is yes. Those are the people skills, right? Those are the leadership skills. But often, particularly lawyers, they're never taught these skills. It's not part of a law school degree at all.
Right. None of this business stuff is taught to them.
They're great lawyers, but they're not necessarily great leaders.
Right.
And actually, very often I'll tell our clients what makes lawyers great lawyers gets in the way of them being great leaders.
Right.
So we have to add that additional skill set to the lawyer, which they're very smart and they get it fairly quickly. But we also keep in mind what Gordon just said. Sometimes if they have a high preference for introversion, this stuff feels really messy for them, and maybe they don't want to dive in. If they, that can impact it. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Sometimes they may have the high preference for extroversion like me, but they don't recognize that their energy is so high, they're not slowing down enough to give the appropriate coaching and feedback that's required to get the people up to speed. So people are very different. And so there's something going on there and they want some help. But the most important thing when you say ideal client is somebody has to be, quote, coachable. Somebody has to be wanting to do the work to develop as a leader, because if they don't and they think they know it all already, then they're not the ideal client. In our world, we're never done. Everybody's a work in progress. The world is changing around us so quickly. Dynamics are changing. Rules are changing. Everything is so the world is changing, and the workforce that's coming into the workplace is changing. Their needs, their values, their expectations is all changing. Gordon and I deal with it every day in our own business with different generations in our own, like how we interact and how we communicate and how we have to, think about who it is that we're talking to and dealing with to help us set the interactions up for success. So coachable,
so how do you
recognize an issue?
How do you attract new clients?
Gordon, you want to take that one?
Sure. Well, we've been doing this for a very long time. So a lot of law firms know us. A lot of people know us. We do conferences as well. We speak at a number of conferences, the National Association of Law Placement, Association of Legal Administrators, and quite a few other conferences as well. We do have some marketing efforts that go on with SEO and some lead gen, and we have some business development folks as well that are constantly going out, having lunch, maybe going out for, a light dinner, really establishing relationships. Our business is really about relationships. So it's not where you can just put things on the internet and hope, you get a lot of leads. It's really, that might be the first trigger to get some people into the funnel, but it's really relationship driven. In order for us to be successful with our client, they have to trust us. And they have to trust that we know what we're doing. And the consultants that we work with are all extremely skilled in what their expertise is. We have people that we have a former managing partner who built a business law firm from 2 attorneys to 80, and then was bought by a very large law firm with 8,000 attorneys. And he is one of our business development consultants for lawyers that are looking for that specific niche. So we have, lots of different resources that can help in different ways. So when you ask who our ideal client is, it really is pretty much anyone that is looking to do things better, smarter, with more awareness and with better results. Because as Natalie said, we focus on the people side, the EQ versus the IQ. And there's a great book that we reference a lot. It's called Mindset by Carol Dweck. She was a psychologist, or is a psychologist. She did a lot of research on how people handle challenges and change. And she came up with a theory of two distinct mindsets, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And the way she identified these two was people with a fixed mindset believe that they know everything they need to know, that they're smart, they stay in their lanes, they stay in their comfort zone, because getting out of your comfort zone means you might make a mistake. And they don't want to make a mistake. And if a mistake does happen, then guess what? It's probably not their fault because they don't make mistakes. So they'll blame other people. If there's a brick wall in front of somebody with a fixed mindset, they're just going to turn around and say, I can't get through that. The other aspect is the growth mindset. And these are people that she identified that, no, they don't know everything. And that's okay. I'm going to learn. I know I'm going to make mistakes because I'm going to try new things. And I'm not going to get it right the first time, most likely. So I'm going to learn from these things. If there's a brick wall in front of me, I'm going to try and look at a lot of different angles. I might bring a lot of my friends over to help me too and collaborate to figure out how can we maybe work together on this. So a lot of attorneys, and this is a very big generalization, but they might have that fixed mindset because they focus so much on their IQ their whole lives that they feel they have to be right all the time. And for their client's sake, they need to be right as much as possible in order to be effective. But sometimes that limits the growth mindset. So we do a lot of work around how do you shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And lawyers are smart. They get it once it's presented to them. A lot of times they just don't realize how they're being perceived by other people out there because guess what? They're lawyers. They don't ask for feedback because they're a lawyer. They don't ask for it. They don't receive it from people because people are too scared to give it to them. So they don't sometimes necessarily know how they're being perceived, and they could potentially make changes if only somebody would tell them. Sometimes they don't want to make a change, and that's we know that too, even if it's pointed out to them. But feedback is such an important part of what we do and how to communicate effectively and how not to be afraid to give feedback or afraid to ask for feedback, that it's really the way to grow. How do you know what to do and differently if nobody's giving you any feedback? So that's one of the main things that we do in a lot of the areas that we work with.
And so how do you meet with your people? Do you meet with them monthly, weekly, or how does it work?
Right. So, it really depends. What we're known for is customizing, right? So in general, for instance, when it's coaching, we work with the client. We want to do what makes sense for them. And we usually find with more senior folks that, basically meeting every other week works. Generally every other week, twice a month, 2 or 3 times a month for an hour, maybe 90 minutes, maybe a half an hour. Really depends. But there is momentum. There is consistency in how we meet. We have a coaching platform that we use now, which is excellent. We just onboarded that in 2023. But what that platform does is when we work with a coachee, we send them a link, they come into the platform, and that's a place where the coach and the coachee can communicate in between sessions. It's a place where the coach can send perhaps a short YouTube video of something they discuss that helps make a point, or a short reading or activity or something to think about based on what they're working on or what they're interested in. And then, of course, they can message each other through that confidentially, too. So it's off their email and it's in this, it goes back and forth between the system. So a relationship builds between the coach and the coachee. They meet regularly for a period of time. Depending on what it is they want to work for, it can be anywhere. I'm going to say usually a session is an hour, anywhere from 6 sessions, 6 hours to 40 hours. It really depends. People decide what it is that they want to commit to. We go into a lot of larger law firms, and then when they're larger clients like that, and the law firm itself is paying for the work, the sponsor, what it's called, the sponsor of that law firm will work with us to decide how many hours of coaching is available to this partner or this associate or this business service professional. So they'll guide it based on what needs to be accomplished and also what's in the budget, of course. So coaching programs with us are flexible and customized to the person that's being coached. But ultimately, we also have this bench of coaches, right? 35 coaches. So what's really important to us is that once I'm usually the point of contact for any new coachee that I speak to and I talk to and find out what they're looking for and explain what our services look like. And then then we do what's called a coach matching process, where I'll say, based on what you told me, I think I'd like you to meet Fritz, Diane, and Julie. And they'll tell me, I only want to meet 2, or maybe I want to meet more. And so I'll introduce them to these coaches. They have their own what we call meet and greet or chemistry calls with those coaches. We coordinate that. And then they come back to me and say, you know what, you were right. I'd really like to work with Mark. He's the guy for me. Or they'll come back and say, I'm really confused. I love Julie, Mark, and Diane. I'm not sure who to work with. And I will never choose for them. The coachee chooses their coach. They have to own it from the beginning, Tom. But I'll ask them some questions to help them get clear. And by the end of that conversation, they're like, you're right. Or not, you're right. They're like, okay, I got it. I want to work with Julie. So that's what generally happens. We want them to select their coach so they're working with somebody they're really comfortable with, that they know can help them along the way. But keep in mind, coaching is not instructing or teaching. Coaching is coaching. So the coach isn't there to tell them what to do. The coach is there to help them clarify what it is that they want to learn and grow about. And if they come in through a bigger firm, often there's some goals set, by the firm, and they're aware of that. So the coach will talk about that with them too. We get a goal or two for coaching, and then the coach will leverage the skills that they have, think about who they are, help them discover who they are, just to use what you have to get where you want to go. And often along the way, like Gordon said, we might have to help trigger a fixed mindset to go to a growth mindset. Or, we will offer some strategies or ideas that they may not have thought of. But very often the coachee knows. They just need a sounding board to sort of say, well, in the past I've done this, it didn't really work. Maybe if I tried that, or I've seen someone do that successfully, that feels weird for me, but I think I could do it. And the coach might say, well, how would you say it? What would it look like? And get them confident and comfortable around it. And then they say, all right, well, have that call, do that meeting. And when we meet next time, I'm going to ask you about how it went. And that's what happens. The coachee is now accountable to the coach. And so when they come back and the coach says, how did that meeting go with Dave that you said you wanted to have? And they go, you know what? It went great. The coach is going to say, great, tell me what happened. Or they're going to say, didn't go as I planned. And the coach is going to say, all right, what happened? What would we do on a redo? Or they might say, I didn't do it. And the coach will say, well, it got in the way. Because sometimes people avoid things, right? Or procrastinate. So that's another something that could be getting in the way of them moving forward. So when you're working with the coach will hold you accountable for what it is you want to commit to, but the coach can't make you do anything, right? And if we find that you're not really at doing the work, the coach is going to say, like, kind of like, yeah, hey, dude, like, or dudess or whoever, like, you don't seem to want to do the work that's required. Do you want to talk about why, or would you think it makes sense to pause this or perhaps end it?
Well, that's a good, I have a question about that. I have so many questions, but, so you're working with more than just the lawyer of the law firm. You're working with everybody in the law firm, right?
Well, the way we set up engagements, it really depends, right? So, I mean, I have a solo practitioner I'm working with now, and I'm just working with her, and it's her business. So there's no one else but her.
But if you've got I just talked to a client. She's a lawyer. She's got 4 paralegals.
Right.
So you would meet with her and the paralegals?
Well, that depends. So when somebody like that, to set up a coaching engagement for success when you're working through a firm, you need 3 things. You need the coachee to want to be coached. You want, if there is a boss for the coachee, we want to know who that is and what role they play. And in law firms, that can be funny, right? Because there's lots of partners or whatever. But there's usually some sort of partner that's involved in overseeing someone, unless they are the managing partner or the lead partner of the firm, right? There's usually somebody that's considered the boss. So we want to also chat. That's usually the one that brings the coaching to our attention, but we want to chat with them about what their role is in the coaching engagement. And then sometimes there's a sponsor, and that's sometimes an HR professional or a professional development professional or an office administrator who's sort of been tasked with finding a coach for the attorney, right? And what their role is really to find us, to make sure we're the right fit, introduce us to the partner, contract with us, make sure that the invoice, all that kind of stuff. So they make sure that the paperwork and stuff goes through and that we're the right partner. But then the coach will work with the coachee and the boss, right? What role does the boss play? We want to make sure the boss is there to provide whatever support's necessary to the coachee to make sure it's effective and successful. Because sometimes the coachee is struggling because they're not getting clear direction or the answers that they need from their boss, right? And so we're going to encourage that coachee to open a conversation with the boss. Or we might say, why don't we bring your boss in on this session and get really clear on what it is that it is you're working on, where some of the struggles are, and we're all listening at the same place. So we want to make sure the boss up front would be willing to participate if necessary, right? And it usually is. So once we have all of that working, and then once the coaching ends, everyone says, well, what happens at the end? Well, it's really the boss that's there to support the coachee and provide the resources and tools and support for them to be successful, including feedback and holding them accountable. So we want to make sure the boss is doing the right thing too, the right job. So it involves the coachee, generally the boss, and then some sort of sponsor. In terms of, like you mentioned, legal assistance, sometimes when we're doing a coaching engagement, the coachee, person being coached, will ask us to speak to people they work with and collect confidential feedback that we summarize confidentially and share with the coachee and say, here's how you're perceived as a leader. Here's what they're seeing in you. Here's where you're doing, what your strengths are. Keep doing these. Here's some things you may not have realized getting in the way of your team being effective. And that's another process. And we call that the qualitative 360 process. And it's very effective. And I always say that's the biggest gift any leader, lawyer will get in their career, is someone to do a completely confidential, anonymous 360 process for them and really give them, like, here's how people are noticing you. Because we're only human, right?
Sometimes right. No, you got to get feedback, like you said. And like getting feedback, getting a lawyer to get feedback isn't the easiest thing because they know it all.
Just to platform 1 second on what Natalie was saying. So if there's a firm that might have somebody that needs a coach, but they have other people too, paralegals, administrators, we might do some training on top of that around certain topics to help support what the firm is trying to create. If it's communication skills, if it's how to delegate more effectively, if it's team dynamics. So we can really put journeys together. That's a combination of coaching and learning and development, and maybe some culture and consulting as well.
Yeah, that's what our whole entire team does. And I'll just add one last thing, Tom, where we've really grown over the past few years since COVID. Our inclusion work has grown. The clients have been asking for it. We have very talented consultants that can help us with, sometimes, diversity, equity, inclusion falls under that umbrella. There's complicated things that happen in firms, and we can guide and train on that too. And we've also really expanded recently into the wellness space. And you're probably reading a lot about this too, particularly with lawyers. They're known to have higher rates of suicide, depression, anxiety because of the work that they do. And so paying attention to their emotional well-being really matters. So I actually sit on a board for an institute called the Institute for Wellbeing in Law. It's a nonprofit that's grown ferociously over the past 4 years to help provide a space. And they provide free resources for lawyers that need help with emotional or mental health, if you will. And so we do retreats for the lawyers, and we do some programming around that too.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. You guys do a lot of stuff. You just create a good community, right? Like a good community of like-minded people. So how many law firms do you work with?
I'll hand that to you.
That's a good question. So we work with a good number of the AmLaw 100 and 200 and a lot of smaller firms as well. So, one of the challenges of working in the legal industry is law firms and lawyers tend to be very skeptical. So the first question they usually ask is, what other law firms or lawyers have you worked with? Before they would even consider you, because they're very risk averse. So they don't want to be the first one to try, a resource, but they will be happy to try to utilize somebody that has proven themselves with other firms that they might regard as trustworthy references. So we work with a lot of law firms. We made a conscious decision to not just be law firm centric and lawyer centric. We wanted to make sure that we work with a lot of other industries as well, because it's really about people. So every industry has people and they all have different challenges. There are certain industries that have more of a niche, like law firms and lawyers. They tend to have certain personality traits that are common amongst them. So they feel that they're outliers, which they are based on a lot of the research. And need somebody that understands that in order to help them. And we have been around long enough, and we have references from every size law firm that we don't have a challenge with that barrier to entry. So we really appreciate that, and we're able to bring in the right resources, because once a lawyer or a small firm or a large firm utilizes our services and they trust us and like us after that because we deliver a great product, we'll be able to do more with that firm. There are a lot of other things that we can do. Succession planning is one thing. There are a lot of individual law firms or small law firms that and large law firms that, push off succession planning. It's not something that is very easy to do for a lot of people, especially people that have a certain mindset. So we help people get that mindset change in order to start thinking about succession planning. What does that look like mentally? How are you going to feel about that? What are the resources that you're going to need to do that? How are you going to put that in motion far enough in advance in order to make it effective and transition effectively? So that's another thing that we do with a lot of lawyers and law firms.
That's a popular topic, succession planning.
Particularly now, as the baby boomers retire and who's taking over. And it's really interesting because a lot of business leaders, and Gordon and I know this ourselves as we've grown our business and we put our succession plan into place. When you've grown something, it's hard to let go, right? And to have confidence in others and give responsibility to others. But if you want to create a legacy and something to continue to thrive, you have to be very thoughtful about how you hire, how you train, how you coach, and how you set people up for success.
If you think about it, it's the ultimate form of delegation. Succession planning, and a lot of attorneys that we work with, especially as they get more senior, they have trouble delegating because they believe they can do it faster, better, smarter, cheaper. Maybe not the last one, but they can do things much more effectively in their mind than the time that they would spend on trying to get somebody to do it the right way. What they don't realize is if they do set it up the right way, delegation, it's not only going to free them up to do other things and give them back some time, but you're also going to develop the people that you're delegating to. Right. So if you do it with the mindset of, I'm delegating this, here's the why around it. Some people need the why in order to do it more effectively and be more passionate about it. But, sometimes just telling them why we're doing this, not just do it, but also, hey, I want you to grow here. I care about your career development path here. And here are some of the skills. I'm going to delegate certain things that will help you grow in different areas that you might not have gotten before if I just did it all myself.
Yeah. Well, and you guys, you're in that same spot, right? Because you've got all these coaches that you've got brought on board that, those are probably hard people to find. Yep. That do it the way that you want it to be done because it's your brand and there's a certain and so those coaches have been with you for a good long time and they've stuck around.
So many of them, yeah. And we have a fine balance. We want to be fresh and sharp. And so we want to make sure that we're always bringing on new talent that we think we need in the market. And so, again, it's funny with coaching, experience matters and hours matters. Sorry, I think I might have hit the plug out and I don't want to lose you. When we look for coaches, like, again, that, generations, millennial generation, right? Are there millennial coaches out there that are great? Yeah. Are they hard to find? Yeah. Have we found some? Absolutely. And then we have coaches that are baby boomers and, certain and Gen X too, that have been with us for quite a while, which is amazing. But we're always, and then we want to keep our coaches busy. So, we don't want to have so many that we're not keeping them busy and they love being busy. So it really works out nicely. Like Gordon mentioned, we do a lot of what we call leadership journeys, which is a combination of programming and coaching. So say there's a cohort of 6 partners. They're attending some sort of workshop, if you will, maybe once every 3 months, every quarter for an hour or 2. And then in between, they're working with their coach. And they come to the next session. They seem to really like that because it's not a lot of time in workshop-y things, but they tend to love the coaching because that's customized to them. And so we'll put coaching teams together that are, each coach is assigned to a partner or 2, and then they're also working on the content that gets delivered every quarter. And there's a launch and there's a closure, and some people often continue to work with their coaches for a while. So we have all types of coaches because you have all types of people, Tom, from all
over. And all types of requirements.
That's right. And there'll be some that say, we have some coaches they'll say, I think I need to work with a woman. I want to work with a woman. I've been told that I'm not always great with the way I communicate with women. So I would need a woman coach because I want someone that can run it by. And then some will say, I really think I need someone of color for this reason, or I really want, and then I'll introduce them to different coaches and they'll sometimes choose someone else because really it's about this fit, this energy, this synergy between them and the coach. But I'm familiar with all of our coaches. I always say when I onboard all of our coaches painstakingly, I'm looking to see if coaching's in their D.N.A. And what I mean by that is D means they need to be delighted to see others succeed. because that's what coaches are. They're your champion. They're your cheerleader. They need to N, remain neutral and not attach their own value judgments to what the coachee is saying, because it's not about us, it's about them. And A, and this is the hardest part, Tom, it has to have A. They have to accept that they don't control the outcome. A coach doesn't control the outcome. The coachee controls the outcome. It's up to them. And when they do well, it's because the coachee did it. And a lot of times coachees will call us, the coach, and say, thank you so much. And you did all the work, dude. You did it. I was just here along the way to support and challenge you, but you did it. So, and sometimes they don't do it. And then that gets, sometimes the coaches will call us and they're just like, I just can't see getting them going over the finish line. Well, as long as you've done everything you can as the coach and we set up the coaching engagement correctly, that's the coachee's, way. And by the way, that's where sometimes we find out coaching isn't the answer. It might be therapy, Tom. If people really,
right.
If people ask the difference between therapy and coaching.
That's right. I mean, like therapy, like that's what we, because we do coaching, on the website and SEO and whatever, marketing stuff. And you find yourself I've had a lot of therapy sessions over my 25 years of doing this. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. And you become their friend. I mean, like this is their business and you're in it like I'm in it. You care about helping people. And lawyers especially are a unique kind of business, right? And they're not taught business and marketing, but they're very intelligent people that deserve a lot of respect. And so they just come in here and many of them think that they should know how to do it. Yes. And they give it the best shot. And some of them are great at it naturally, right? Some of them do well naturally. But even those people, you want to hear what others are doing. And that's one of the great things about being in a coaching environment is you get the benefit of all the others that have been before you, the wisdom and the experience.
We do a lot of group coaching, Tom. Yeah. And when you do group coaching, people realize, oh, I didn't say anything about that because I thought I was the only one and I didn't want to bring it up. But now I realize that I should have brought it up because other people are experiencing this. Some people might have best practices that can help, and some people might have some challenges that we can all help with as well. So it's really about, again, that's part of feedback. It really is.
Right. So how does somebody get to work with you? What's the best way to start talking about maybe getting some help?
Oh, thank you. So the best way, obviously, we have a website. It's www.loebleadership.com. And you can write there, there's I think a chat bot right away. You can just message us and get in touch. My email is Natalie, Natalie, at loebleadership.com. Gordon's is Gordon at loebleadership.com. You can follow us both on LinkedIn and Loeb Leadership on LinkedIn. You can message us on LinkedIn. We're pretty easy to get to. We love having conversations with our clients about whatever they want to talk about, our potential clients. And we always like to see if we're the right fit. That's what I always say to our clients. Let's have a conversation, share what's going on with you, and we'll share what's going on with that, how we work. And if you look behind me, I put this picture up purposely. What you're looking at is a table that I saw when Gordon and I were visiting Montenegro. And it was at a church in the middle of an island, over 100 years old. And it was called the problem-solving table. See the two men with the table on their shoulders? And they said the elders sit around there and solve problems. Well, we like to say a virtual or a Zoom call, maybe it's a problem-solving call, just what's going on and let's figure out how to make it better. And if it's a people issue, we can be very helpful. If it's a structure or a process issue, that goes more to consulting than coaching or training. But some people think it's a people issue, and then we realize, oh, maybe it's more a structure or process that needs to get straightened out first, and then we can work on the people. Or sometimes it's, yeah, you're right. Let's put some people stuff together and see how it goes. And we'll see results. And, that's what our clients tell us. And that's what makes us feel really good. And
Natalie, I want to congratulate you by wearing an outfit that matches that background.
Yeah. Who knew that? That was by accident. But what I want to say is we believe so much in our work. And I think it goes back to the passion, Tom, is when you make somebody elevate their leadership skills, you're elevating them not only in their firm and organization, but in their communities and in their homes, because the skills are completely transferable. Completely.
Yeah.
And that's why we love what we do. It really, when we do some work in our community and we get a chance, I told you, our kids grew up in a leadership workshop. They'll tell you that. And guests that come to our home, well, somehow we always get talking about introversion and extroversion, and they're fascinated. It's not all the time, but people, these are daily skills really that make a difference and certainly matter in the workplace. And that's when it's harder to demonstrate them, because the emotions can run so high when you're in the workplace, right? Because it's stressful environments with deadlines and what have you. So we have to be more intentional when we're in the workplace.
And to Natalie's point about it relates to, not just business. People don't realize, but, their talk at the dinner table sometimes, somebody goes home and starts talking, oh, our managing partner is such a great boss. They're just wonderful. I love working at my office, or I just can't take it anymore. They're just not listening. It's a really toxic environment. I don't know why I'm there, but they bring it home. And so it's not just in the office that you're having an effect. A toxic employee or a toxic person can really have tentacles that go a long way, and you want to avoid that and do the stop, start, continue. Make sure you stop the things that you need to, start things that will make it better, and continue the things that are working. So it's a very impactful thing, how you show up, but also how you affect others.
Right. So what would you want people saying about you, Tom, when you're sitting at the dinner table? That's what we always say.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying about you. And that
it has been really wonderful getting to know you guys better. And I'm very pleased and happy that you have created an environment, a community for lawyers like you have. And because they need help. And as we said, they're great people to work with, and they do a good service. Mm-hmm. And we need them, and we need them to be operating at their best.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. It's important work that they're doing. It's exactly right. Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure.
Right.
Thank you.
One of the reasons that we work with other industries, just to bring that full circle, is to bring in some of the best practices from outside of the legal world, because sometimes the best practices around the work we do are not always the best in the legal industry. So we really want to bring in a lot of fresh ideas so we can offer things that they might be able to benefit from. We've seen a lot of law firms and lawyers start to try and bring in business concepts into their practices. So, we're able to help them with that because we also understand business outside of the legal industry as well that can apply to what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Very good, guys. Well, It was great talking to you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And just hang out here for a minute. All right, everybody. It's been Tom, Gordon, and Natalie on the World of Marketing. Everybody have a wonderful day. And thank you so much, guys, for being a guest.
Thanks for having us.